Thank you guys for coming. Thank you to our anonymous sponsor this evening. This week's Parashat on the wrong page. Parashat Miketz. Okay? The Parasha begins Vayhi Miketz Shenatayim Yamim, and it was after 2 years. Okay? The Chavetz Chaim on the Torah has a beautiful question. And he explains, why does the Torah, this week's Parasha, begin Vayhi Miketz Shenatayim Yamim, and then Ufaro cholem ve'inei omed alei or, and Pharaoh had a dream and he was standing on the riverbanks. He could have just said Ufaro cholem ve'inei omed alei or. Pharaoh had a dream and he's sitting on the riverbanks. Why is it introduced after these 2 years? What 2 years are we referring to? At the conclusion of these 2 years. So if you look back to previous pasuk and last week's parasha, Yosef was in the dungeon again. Yosef was thrown down in the jail again, and he was in jail for 12 years. And what happened? It was at the conclusion of the 2 years that he was in jail. Then Paro had this dream. Why is that important? Because the Chavetz Chaim says it's very possible that someone might, if they didn't have this introduction that it was the end of the 2 years, someone might have a misconception and say that Yosef left prison because Paro had a dream. Because Paro dreamt a dream, Yosef was able to get out of prison. But in fact, the time for him up to be in jail was up. The 2 years that he was allotted, the extra 2 years they're supposed to be in jail for, are finished. He had to explain the dreams. So then the Yosef came out of jail.
He didn't come out because Paro had the dreams. Paro had the dreams because he had to come out.
You could have misunderstood it without this beginning and to think, oh, the only reason Yosef came out was because of the dream. But on the contrary,
Paro had the dream only because it was time for him to come out.
Yeah, exactly. The Chavetz Chaim is explaining what's this introduction. It's been 2 years now because now Hashem's time for Yosef in prison is up. And then Paro had the dream. Why is this so important? The Chavetz Chaim explains that this world is similar to, you can make a mashal, we are similar to a simple village man. Think back 200 years, so a common village guy that wasn't part of the big city, lived on a village, farm, sheep, cattle, corn, whatever it was. He went to the big city, okay? What happens? He arrives to the big city, arrives to the train station in the big city. Oh my God, what's this? People walking, guy with a whistle. You see someone standing next to the platform with a whistle, blows the whistle, wearing a uniform, and the trains come this way, that way, this track. And this guy, this common, whatever he is, this common villager, looks at this guy with the uniform and the whistle and says, "This guy is running the show. He's running." That this train you're going to Port Washington, I got you. You're going to Penn Station, I got you. He's dictating where all the trains are going. And then what happens? He's so confident he's in charge of all the trains. He goes and says one word to him, opens his mouth, and he realizes that this is no other than a junior employee. Some random minimum wage guy that's standing on the platform and blows his whistle to make sure no one falls between the gap in the train. And immediately he realizes, oh, this guy's a nobody. He's not running the show. He is a junior minimum wage position that the government just put here so no one falls between the train and the platform. Why is that the analogy for our world? The nimshal is that in this world, we see many people doing many things. And we think that they have the capability to be the ones that are moving the pieces. We think that, this guy's very rich. If he works 8 hours more a day, he'll be even more rich. Meaning he's already working healthy full time. But if he has the power to do this doctor has the power to cure that disease. And we think very often mistakenly that they have the power, people have the power to change things, to plan, to cure. But really, they're just that employee that's standing on the platform blowing his whistle so you don't fall between the train and the platform. What does that mean? Hashem already planned for this to happen. Hashem already planned for this to be taken care of. And this person is just the pawn in Hashem's plan. This individual is just the avenue and the mechanism and the method that Hashem is using to get and achieve His goals. Now, I heard a crazy story from someone named Ami Ben Sion on the Rav Yoel Gold short podcast, whatever it's called. I forgot what it's called. It was on hashkifa.com. Crazy story. There was a religious girl, grew up in Bnei Brak. True story. She was very religious in a very religious family. But what happened? She got connected one time outside the supermarket with not such good influences. She became friends with them. She became close friends with girls, a few girls that weren't as observant. And slowly but surely, she lessened and got to a point where she was no longer keeping any of the Torah and any of the mitzvot. No Shabbat, no Kashrut, nothing. No Yom Tov. She stopped keeping everything from a Orthodox, extremely Orthodox family in Bnei Brak to zero. Except for one thing, she didn't take off her tzniut. She didn't become immodest. She was still tzanua. Long sleeves, long skirt. She dressed the part, but didn't keep anything. Fast forward a year and a half ago, her friends, these new group of friends that she's with, called her up, said, hey, we want to go to this party where? The Nova Festival. We want to go to the Nova Festival. You want to join us? Again, on Shabbat, Simchat Torah. She said, sure, I'm coming, I'll come. They picked her up, they went. They had time of their life. Party, drinking, dancing, music, all night long. Until what? Until the morning, when we all know the story, unfortunately. It's around 6:30 a.m. They hear sirens, they see the missiles. Next thing she knows, she's on the ground. Bullets flying over her head. She just saw a few of her friends murdered and a few of her friends kidnapped who are still in Gaza till today. She's on the floor. Bullets whistling over her head. Few of her friends killed, few of her friends kidnapped already. And she's yelling to Hashem, Hashem, if you get me out of this scenario, I'll come back completely. I'll be completely Choser B'Tshuva. I'll be completely back to where my family brought me up to be. And she's yelling, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And the next thing she knows, some terrorist comes up to her, Hamasnik, and says, Ma tosakan? Giveret, ma tosakan? Lady, what are you doing here? She looks up. Again, he repeats, what are you doing here? You dressed like that. Look at everyone else, how everyone else is dressed here. Why are you here? What are you doing here? Why are you... No, you don't belong here. Get up and go back home. Why are you here? And she looks up and she says, I'm scared if I stand up, they're going to shoot me. I'm going to die. Speaking to a Hamas terrorist. And he looks back and says, don't worry, come with me. Hamas terrorist grabs her, picks her up, and starts walking. And all the other terrorists don't shoot because, we're kidnapping another one. They assume that he's kidnapping her. He takes her out of the war zone, out of the Nova Festival site, and drops her off on the outside near a car and says, go home. Go back to your family. You don't belong here. You're not one of them. She hitches a ride with the car that was leaving, gets dropped off Shabbat afternoon in Bnei Brak. For 1 month, she was traumatized. She couldn't open up. She couldn't talk to anyone. She saw her friends killed, her friends kidnapped. And her mom came to her and said, her mom was a very righteous woman, and said, you don't have to worry. That Hamasnik was Eliyahu Hanavi. And he came to save you. Why? Because of the zechut of your tzniut. Because you never dropped that. You stopped everything. Shabbat, Kashrut, Chagim, everything you dropped, you kept that one thing, tzniut. And that's what protected you and saved your life. And slowly but surely, she's observant now. She went to therapy. She's able to talk about it. And it's a crazy story. But the idea, I think, is very similar to here. We live in a world, we don't understand how anything works. But Hashem has a plan. Hashem has His pawns. Hashem has a system in place that people are meant to carry out different deeds. And it's our job to realize and internalize that it's all part of Hashem's plan. So if something doesn't go my way, don't get angry. Angry is the wrong response. Hashem is testing me. I stub my toe, don't yell, don't curse. You drop your phone, don't yell. Everything is a test of our patience, of our emunah. It's part of the process. It's part of the plan. It's part of the greater picture. And just to wrap up, there's a famous Gemara at the end of Masechet Sotah that says, "Bikveta de Meshicha penei ador kifnei kelev." At the doorsteps of the Mashiach time period, the face of the generation is like that face of a dog. What's unique about a dog? What's special about a dog? The same way a dog, when I throw a rock at it or near it, it starts barking at the rock. And it chases the rock, chases the ball. And it doesn't realize that I'm the one that threw this ball or threw this rock at it. Instead, it attacks the rock. Or when you hit it with a stick, it starts biting and barking at the stick. It doesn't know that I'm behind the stick.
So you should get angry at God?
No, on the contrary,
No, I'm saying
our generation is similar to a dog. We're the footsteps of Mashiach. We're at the doorpost. Mashiach is almost here, and all of the signs are pointing towards it. We are the generation before Mashiach, or hopefully it's going to be in our generation, God willing, tomorrow.
Sure.
Of course we are. All signs of history, all the prophecies, the coming back to Israel, the Jews going back to Israel, all of these prophecies are pointing to the Mashiach coming. It's our job to...
100 years or something?
I don't know. Anyone who tells you, we have no idea. But one thing I know for sure is that we are part of the process. We're in the middle of the process. But what the Gemara says, that generation is similar to a dog. A dog gets hit and it bites the stick. A ball gets thrown and it barks at the ball. But really, who threw the stick? Who threw the ball? Who threw the rock? Who's holding the stick? Our generation, people will look at half things. They think that someone yelled at them and they get mad at the individual. But really, they're just a pawn of Hashem.
Hashem's theory on that?
Hashem, what?
I'll say it after.
Fine. Hashem's holding the staff. Hashem's holding this person. He's the pawn. He's the puppet that made you upset. For you to get back get upset at this puppet, what does that give you? What do you gain from that? Our generation needs to understand that it's not who is causing it to me, it's who sent this person. And if we always think back that's why the parasha began with Vahi Miketz Shnatayim Yamim. It was at the conclusion of the 2 years, and then Paro had the dream. Because don't think that Paro's dream caused Yosef to come out. No. Yosef's time was up. His time in prison, his jail was finished. And then Hashem sent Paro's dream as the pawn, as the mechanism to bring this story about. And that's the idea of our generation. Everything is up. We have to face towards Hashem. Everything that happens for a reason. Everything that occurs to us, we know, or we have to remind ourselves that there's a reason why it's happening. And it's our job to see it in our day-to-day lives. And all the examples we've given, to recognize it. Someone gets you upset, don't get mad at that person. Understand Hashem sent him here as a test. Something doesn't go your way, someone steals from you and at work, God forbid, or you lose a sale or you lose a deal. That's what Hashem wanted. And on the contrary as well, when we get the good things, when we get the brachot, we also recognize that, it wasn't that I did this more, or it wasn't that I was extra smart, but rather Hashem wanted me to get this, and it was my due diligence that got this reward. So it's a lesson we have to learn from this parasha and internalize that everything's from up, everything's from above, hakol milamala, everything's from Hashem, and it's just in our eyes to recognize it and see it, and then once we are capable of opening our eyes to see it, we'll live a much happier and healthier life. Chazak Baruch, guys. Thank you.